What is migration? Migration is the movement of large number of animals from one place to another for various reasons. According to Baker 1998, migration is the act of moving from one spatial unit to another. Few species of fish travel long distance moving from one place to another place in search of food, breeding, and temperature adjustment. This movement of large number of fish is known as migration. There are three timing of fish migration, which are annual, daily, and generational. Types of migration. Fish migration are typically grouped into 5 categories, which are diadromous, anadromous, catadromous, amphidromous, oceanodromous, and potamodromous. Mears 1949 has used the following terms to describe fish migration. When fish can migrate from freshwater to sea or from sea to freshwater, it is called diadromous migration. There are about 120 species of fish that are capable of overcoming osmotic barrier. Anadromous is when the fish live and feed entirely in ocean but migrate from sea to the freshwater to breed. For example, salmon, Irsha, and sturgeon are some of marine fish that undertake anadromous migration to spawn in river. Catadromous is when the fish live entirely in freshwater but migrate from freshwater to the sea to breed. For example, this type of migrations involve movement of large individuals of eelfish from genus Angela, which inhabiting European and North American river. Next is amphidromous. This type of migration is not for the purpose of breeding, but occurs regularly at some other definite stage of the life cycle. Migration of some guppies might fall into this category. Oceanodromous. In this type, fish lives and migrate only within seawater, for example, tuna, herring, and mackerels. These fish nearly migrate to colder water region for the purpose of spawning and then return to their parental area. There are about 12,000 marine species that regularly migrate within seawater. Herrings, sardines, and cods migrate in large number in search of food by way of shoaling. Migration that occur entirely within freshwater are classified as potamodromous. For example, carps, trouts, and mahseer fish. Fish must migrate to lay their eggs in places where oxygen concentration in water is high. There is abundance of food as well for juveniles when they hatch from the eggs. Why do fish migrate? According to Hippie 1961, there are 4 primary reasons of fish migration. First, alimentary migration. Second, genetic migration. Third, climatic migration. And fourth, osmoregulatory migration. Alimentary or feeding migration. Fish migrate constantly in search of new feeding resources due to shortage of food. Salmon, cods, and swordfish constantly migrate for food from one place to another in the sea. Next is gametic or spawning migration. Gametic migration takes place in breeding season in those fish which have spawning grounds far away from feeding place. Eels and salmon spawn and migrate in large number for laying eggs in oxygen-rich water like river. Third is climatic or wintering migration. It helps the fish to survive in a protective area. For example, when the food becomes scarce during winter, the fish migrate towards subtropical and tropical areas to escape extreme of weather conditions. Last one is osmoregulatory or protective migration. Spawning, feeding, and wintering migration can all be regarded as protection migration. There's also orientation during migration. For example, orientation to gradients of temperature, salinity, and chemicals, orientation by the sun, and orientation to geomagnetic and geoelectric fields. Several advantages of migration are adaptation towards abundance and to have separate spawning, nursery, and feeding grounds for fish. However, there are some disadvantages of migration. The fish must store energy before the migration, and there also face risks from the predators. Challenges faced by fish during migration. Unfortunately, many fish cannot complete their migration because they are often blocked from completing their journey by human-made barriers such as dams and culverts. This dam can prevent adult fish from swimming upstream. It also injured or killed juvenile fish that try to swim downstream. Culverts can also be barriers to fish migration when they are too small or steep or are perched too high to allow fish to pass. When fish cannot reach their habitat, they cannot reproduce and maintain or grow their population. Solutions to these problems are: the NOAA Fisheries work to protect and restore river habitat through a variety of programs and partnerships. They identify and implement solutions to reopen rivers to migratory fish while aiming to preserve hydropower dams.